So, good evening, everybody. Should we see people there?
No, we won't see them.
0 viewers.
We won't see anybody.
Like on the bar line.
Right.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Just start. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to the presentation or to a talk. Why is Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin and why should we care? The talk will be given by Justus Ranvier, who sits to my left, and who works for the same company that I work for, Monetas, and who is an expert in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Justus is also one of the active people in the Austin Bitcoin community, where he helps run meetups and other events. So, without any further ado, I'd like to turn over to you.
Thank you.
And start your presentation. Sorry.
Yeah. So this talk is designed for people who've heard of Bitcoin but aren't experts in it yet, and we're going to really focus on the goals, the intentions, and the history of Bitcoin, going back to some of its earliest cypherpunk roots.
Mm-hmm. So I will start a screen share now, so you can see the presentation.
Let's scroll up.
Yes.
Can you log into YouTube and make sure that it's viewing? All right. So what is Bitcoin and why should you care? All right, so the term Bitcoin is used in several different ways. It can refer to a new cryptocurrency. It also refers to the peer-to-peer network which forms the currency. It's also a term that describes Bitcoin's use as a payment system, and at a deeper technical level, the secure timestamping service which the blockchain creates. But before we understand what a cryptocurrency is, we need to go into a little bit deeper. So what is a cryptocurrency? It's a medium of exchange, and it uses cryptography to both secure the transactions and control the creation of new units. This is what makes it a form of it's a form of money because it's a medium of exchange, and the cryptocurrency is deeply involved in the most important aspects of it. But we may or may not know what cryptography actually means, even if we've heard about it a lot. So let's review that definition. The term cryptography historically means secret writing. It was, for a long time, cryptography was synonymous with encryption. And it was all about secure communication. In the modern era, the definition of cryptography has grown to be the general study and construction of protocols that overcome the influence of adversaries. And whether that means in encryption, or whether that means in communication, or in finance, or in general decision-making protocols, cryptography is about using math to allow people to interact in a way that other people cannot easily interfere with. All right, the next few slides, I'm going to go through some quotes from Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin, as part of his release announcements for the first version of Bitcoin. This will give us an idea about the intent and goals of the Bitcoin project. So the root problem with conventional currency is that all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust. Banks must be trusted to hold our money and transfer it electronically, but they lend it out in waves of credit bubbles with barely a fraction in reserve. We have to trust them with our privacy, trust them not to let identity thieves drain our accounts. Their massive overhead costs make micropayments impossible. He goes on, a generation ago, multi-user time-sharing computer systems had a similar problem. Before strong encryption, users had to rely on password protection to secure their files, placing trust in the system administrator to keep their information private. Privacy could always be overridden by the admin based on his judgment call, weighing the principle of privacy against other concerns, or at the behest of his superiors. Then strong encryption became available to the masses and trust was no longer required. Data could be secured in a way that was physically impossible for others to access, no matter for what reason, no matter for how good the excuse, no matter what. It's time we had the same thing for money. With e-currency based on cryptographic proof, without the need to trust a third-party middleman, money can be secure and transactions effortless. So these three paragraphs really form the purpose statement of Bitcoin as expressed by Satoshi. And we can see in this purpose statement, he identified a number of anti-features. These are features that he and the other people who joined the projects don't want in their money. It's entirely possible that there could be people who want those features in their money, but Bitcoin is not for them. So what are the monetary anti-features? Inflation, identified via a couple different mechanisms.
It's showing a different window. It doesn't show this window. It shows you the presentation window.
So we have a problem with our screen share.
The screen share is not working as intended. So don't close it. Just Alt-Tab. So you still got the presentation running? No.
I don't think so.
Okay, go to the presentation and show the presentation screen. No, from current slide.
Okay, we just had the wrong one open.
And now we roll Alt-Tab. Or can we change to switch screen? And then go to the that one. Go switch screen.
There we go. Now we're advancing.
But it's not showing you the new slide because it's still showing screen share needs to be updated to the correct window.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think what we should do is just avoid any confusion. What was that?
Go to and the screen share you need to share, not the. You need to share the presentation window, not the Impress window.
Okay, I need to find my cursor. Sorry.
It's on the screen. Yeah.
I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, screen share.
But you don't have the presentation running at the moment. You need to have the presentation running first.
Okay, okay, so let's run the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. And now start the presentation. Now switch to Google Chat, Google Plus. Now screen share the running presentation. Yeah. And now select this window here.
Yes.
Start screen share. Now, when you edit this, now select focus.
So should we focus on that one?
Yep. Although it's not updating the stream.
Here. I believe this should be the window. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm. But it's not, the stream hasn't updated. This is a problem.
Oh. All right.
Oh, there we are. Wait, it's black. Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that. We had an issue with screen sharing.
Okay, just wait for the screen to update. Hopefully it works. I don't know. Yeah, it's gone white.
A bit of a delay.
It's white with a cursor on it.
We just like seeing delay. So whatever we do comes later.
Sure, but it's delayed to something that's not displayed.
Oh no.
Oh, there we are.
See.
Here we are.
Okay. It just takes a while.
Okay, sorry about the latency.
Yeah.
All right, so we're talking about money anti-features. The pre-Bitcoin money was vulnerable to inflation, and the inflation could be caused by debasement, whereas whoever can mint the money just prints more of it, and it can also be inflated via fractional reserve lending. The legacy money also has privacy anti-features. Money can be censored. The records of transactions can be used for retribution. If somebody later down the road doesn't like how money was used, they can go after people. And the way that money has been implemented in legacy systems makes the users vulnerable to identity theft. And finally, he identified that it was expensive. All of this tracking overhead makes transactions expensive. So now we'll go into some of the ways in which Bitcoin was designed to avoid these anti-features. But first, we can clarify our previous definition of cryptography to specifically financial cryptography. So this is the study and construction of protocols that overcome the influences of adversaries in the realm of finance. So knowing what our monetary anti-features are, we can kind of define the goals of the adversaries in the realm of financial cryptography. Adversaries are anyone who wants to debase the currency, who wants to be able to control who is and is not allowed to transact, who want to confiscate funds without the consent of the people who hold them, and to monitor and track the behavior of users of the currency. So first, we can talk about where did these ideas that led up to Bitcoin come from. We can't cover a complete history, but we can do some selected highlights. DigiCash was a digital cash system that its origins can be traced back to 1982, when David Chaum wrote a paper, Blind Signatures for Electronic Payments. In that paper, he didn't actually create a crypto system, but he described a set of equations that if equations matching these parameters could be found, it would be possible to create anonymous digital cash. The kind of anonymous digital cash would be the liability of a trusted issuer, such as a bank. In 1990, he formed a company designed to produce this commercially. And that company, DigiCash Inc., operated from 1990 to 1998. From the beginning, it was a very controversial operation. Even in the 90s, before most of our anti-money laundering laws were written, there was always tension about the subject of privacy. And in 1993, Hal Finney wrote a paper called Digital Cash and Privacy, where he was defending DigiCash and its approach. And in his paper, he predicted a lot of the payment problems that we enjoy today, such as the loss of privacy, tracking of individual behaviors by government and non-governmental organizations, the security risk of having a 16-digit number that anyone, if they get it, they can use it, a 16-digit number that you have to give to people, and anyone who has it can use it to withdraw money from your account. And he also predicted identity theft. So although DigiCash didn't succeed commercially, it was probably the first identifiable effort at making a form of digital money. Hashcash was a concept invented by Adam Back in 1997, and it was not a currency. He devised a method of using hash pre-imaging to create proof of work that was intended to make it expensive to consume large amounts of free resources, such as like an email service or a telnet server. The reason we include this is because this proof of work function eventually did make it into future currency efforts. It wasn't actually money itself because it didn't attempt to create a tradable commodity. So this is almost like price discovery. You know, in any sort of market commodity, you expect that supply and demand are matched up via a price discovery mechanism. Hashcash was a very significant step towards that, but it didn't quite become money. So next on our highlights, we want to go to B-Money, which was a paper written by Wei Dai in 1998. In Wei Dai's introduction, he was explicitly describing B-Money as a way to achieve crypto anarchy, as described by Tim May. In his proposal, he used the Hashcash-based proof of work, and but to create a tradable commodity. The B-Money proposal produced new currency units indefinitely, and his idea was that you could limit the creation of units based on some kind of exchange rate based on the market price of computing power. His proposal had smart contract execution built in and a type of arbitration. And as the proposal described two different ways of creating the database. There was a global database that was shared by the entire network, which may have been the inspiration for blockchain-based currencies. He also had a federated database, which may have been an inspiration for protocols such as Ripple. Okay, and this paragraph I've loaded now is from the beginning of the B-Money paper, and this was written by Wei Dai. I am fascinated by Tim May's crypto anarchy. Unlike the communities traditionally associated with the word anarchy, in a crypto anarchy, the government is not temporarily destroyed, but permanently forbidden and permanently unnecessary. It's a community where the threat of violence is impotent because violence is impossible, and violence is impossible because its participants cannot be linked to their true names or physical locations. So this idea is very important to show that privacy and individual autonomy have always been strong parts of financial cryptography. If you have adversaries who may want to retaliate on against uses of the currency they don't like, then the only way you can solve this is by providing a sufficient degree of privacy. So now we can jump into Bitcoin. Bitcoin was first announced in 2008 by Satoshi Nakamoto with a very succinct sentence: I've been working on a new electronic cash system that's fully peer-to-peer and with no trusted third party. Very short description of an extremely powerful combination of ideas. So the major features which distinguish Bitcoin from previous attempts is that the double spending is prevented with a peer-to-peer network. Unlike pretty much every other currency system that had been attempted before, there was no mint or trusted parties. The participants can be anonymous in this network, and they can come and go freely. New coins were made from Hashcash style proof of work, and the proof of work for generating coins was also combined into the same mechanism that checks for double spending. And that's the formation of a blockchain. So with these features, Bitcoin addresses all of the monetary anti-features to create a hopefully better form of money. The supply is constrained by the protocol, and it uses a algorithm to keep the rate constant. So new Bitcoins are issued every 10 minutes at a constant rate that drops by half every 4 years. The proof of work that creates these blocks dynamically adjusts based on the time needed to create prior blocks to keep the average rate at 10 minutes. And to prevent cheating, every node in the P2P network verifies that all of the block creation rules have been followed, and rejects any blocks or transactions that don't obey protocol rules. Here we have a graph of the total Bitcoin supply over time, and you can see that it's a series of lines where the slope drops off by half every 4 years. This graph cuts off in 2033, but in reality that the final smallest value of Bitcoin will be mined in approximately 100 years, give or take. The next graph shows how the next graph translates that production rate into the monetary inflation rate, which people might be more familiar with. The initial period, 4 years, the effective inflation rate was extremely high, and you can see every 4 years the rate drops by half and steadily falls off in between halving events. As of now, near the end of 2014, we're at approximately 10% annualized inflation, which will drop steadily until the end of 2016, where it will drop down, to maybe about 4 or 5%, and only go down from there. In order to avoid some of these other monetary anti-features, Bitcoin transactions are pseudonymous. Balances in the blockchains are not tied to identities, they are tied to scripts. And these scripts are executed by checking elliptic curve DSA signatures. So what this means is Bitcoins in the blockchain are controlled by an ECDSA private key. Now, these private keys are supposed to be ephemeral, even though some badly designed and even some very common wallets reuse them. That's a design flaw of wallets. Bitcoin uses intended doesn't have that flaw. And so what this accomplishes is a trade-off that creates user-defined privacy. You can use Bitcoin in a way that's extremely resistant to graph analysis, or you can use Bitcoin in a way that's extremely convenient, and there's a sliding scale of trade-offs that you make between the privacy versus ease of use, depending on how you work with your Bitcoins. Bitcoins are not remotely confiscatable. The Bitcoin network is a script processing engine, and the only conditions that determine whether or not a script is valid is the script itself. So any transaction that attempts to spend coins that cannot produce a valid ECDSA signature is an invalid transaction and will be rejected by the network. And so that satisfies Satoshi's condition that Bitcoins can't be confiscated no matter what the reason, no matter how good the excuse, no matter what. And the censorship-resistant portion of Bitcoin is created by the fact that it's an open peer-to-peer network. Anyone can run a validating node. They do not require permission from anyone else. Anyone can mine new blocks. The only way to censor one miner's block is to do more work than them, and that is expensive because you have to spend electricity that you can't get back in order to do that. So there have been some criticisms of Bitcoin that censorship is theoretically possible in the cryptographic sense, but the design of Bitcoin is to make it uneconomical. That if you want to censor, you have to spend electricity and hardware and time, and therefore the barrier to censorship is higher than in a lot of other systems. And this kind of brings us to the present day, where the debate goes always is, well, what if bad people use Bitcoin? And this is not a new debate. This debate has been going on with any kind of privacy technology going all the way back to the 1980s. And in fact, a lot of the anti-privacy debates were predicted by Tim May in the late 1980s, and he described the four horsemen of the infocalypse that would be used by anybody who hated privacy to scare people. And the four horsemen are money launderers, drug dealers, pedophiles, and terrorists. This list probably sounds familiar to you because you may have heard quite a few of these four horsemen mentioned in the news through most of your life. So this is some quotes from Adam Back in 1995 when somebody was asking, what is this four horsemen thing about? And so he described how to get what you want in 4 easy stages. Have a target thing you wish to stop and lack any moral or practical reasons for doing so. Pick a fear common to lots of people, something that will evoke a gut reaction. Terrorists, pedophiles, serial killers. Scream loudly to the media that that thing is being used by the perpetrator. Don't worry if this is true or common to all other things or less common with the thing than with other long-established systems, payphones, paper mail, private hotel rooms, lack of bugs in all houses, etc. Say that the only way to stop the perpetrators is to close down thing or regulate it to death or have laws enforcing mass tappability of all private communications on the thing. Don't worry if communicating on the thing is a constitutionally protected right. If you've done a good job of choosing and publicizing the horsemen in step 2, no one will notice and they will be too busy clamoring for you to save them from the supposed evils. Again, this strategy probably sounds familiar to you because it's been used repeatedly over time in many circumstances. History repeats itself every few years. Yeah, and Adam Back's comments in the mid-90s were leading up to the crypto wars of the 90s, which involves things like the Clipper chip and the attempt by the US government to ban the export of open source software that performs strong encryption. Those efforts failed, fortunately. But now in 2014, everything that was old is new again. And we have a quote here from James Cole, who is a Deputy Attorney General for the United States Department of Justice, who was quoted as saying that advertising encryption is marketing to criminals and that someday, somewhere, a child will die because of iPhone encryption. And he explicitly said to reporters that whenever some child is killed or other suitable tragedy happens, it will be used to push through legislation that will, require backdoors in mobile phone encryption. So this is, as many people have noticed, this is an exact replay of the crypto wars of the 90s and before. So why should you care about Bitcoin? If you support free speech, then you have to care about privacy, because without privacy, there is no free speech. If people are not free to say what they want without fear of retribution, the speech isn't free. And so if you care about privacy, you have to support strong encryption, because that is the means by which you get privacy in the modern world. Well, I was talking about speech. What does that have to do with Bitcoin? One of the recognitions that has come about studying economics of Bitcoin is that money is just a ledger. It's just a record of who has traded with whom and under what circumstances. A report by the Federal Reserve Bank in the late 90s described it as money is memory. Just a record of the economic, it's the economic memory of the participants in the economy. And knowing that, we can see that financial transactions are just another form of communication. It's just broadcasting this information, this memory, throughout the participants in the economy. So if you care about free speech, you care about free monetary transactions because they are the same thing. And also, if we can tolerate the misuse of free speech, and if we know all of the arguments for why, even though people may say bad or hurtful or even damaging things, that free speech is still a value that outweighs the risks, then we can also tolerate misuses of cryptocurrencies in the same way because it is the same argument. And that's all I have for this introduction to Bitcoin. And here is a list of related information that I'll hope you check out, and we'll get these slides uploaded somewhere where it will be possible for everyone to read the links. That's all I have.
Thanks, Justus. Can I close this?
Yes.
Right.
Swap to the video and say goodbye.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Yeah, if anyone's watching through the Google Plus page, you should be able to access the question and answer app from there.
Like if you go to the left-hand side, there should be like a vertical stripe of icons, and there's a Q&A icon there.
Maybe not. There's only 2 viewers.
Right. Okay. Well, in that case, I would like to thank Justus for this interesting presentation. I particularly liked the historical context.
Thanks a lot, and I really like the opportunity to let more people know about the historical context of Bitcoin, because that's been missing from a lot of the narrative.
Yeah. So very valuable and lots of pointers. I will explore myself.
So would you? I've got a quick question. The constitutional right to free speech. How does that affect currencies?
Well, like I said, monetary transactions are just communication. So if we believe in free speech, then we have to believe in free trade, of free monetary trade.
Yeah. Okay. Very simple.
Very nice. Okay. Thanks again, and have a nice evening. Goodbye.